All right, Generation Ziglar family, we are excited again to do our weekly leadership community call. We got a good crowd online with us, and the crowds are starting to form on Facebook. If you're watching us on Facebook and you're a fan of ours, obviously, we encourage you to share this call as well in your feed so that other folks can reach it. This is our 14th call that we have done. 14th call we've done. Caden, have you been on every single call? He has been on every single call, and we've reached over 35,000 people during our calls, which is absolutely phenomenal. We're really excited about the fact that we have been able to reach so many people. And this is our last live community call in this series. So for those of you who are part of this group, we appreciate everything you've done. We appreciate how you've been involved with us. The next couple of months, you'll be seeing short clips from each one of the 14 calls, at least 2, maybe 3 short clips as we go forward. And then come this September, late August, September, we'll start a new series, and you'll get some information on that. But to take us out of this community call with an absolute bang, I'm really excited to have my new friend, Jason Wetzler, with us here. Now, I have known about this young man for several years now. As people have shared with me about his passion for helping others, shared with me about his talent, and I was really excited and really happy that when he and I connected just a few weeks ago that he agreed to be on this call. So Jason, thank you for joining us here at Generation Ziglar. And a lot of these folks may be friends of yours, follow you and be on some of the things that you do already, but a lot of the folks that are viewing us today, this may be their first time hearing about you or meeting you. Tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are.
Well, yeah, some of that's a little bit of mystery, but I can tell you my name for sure. I'm Jason. I'm from Portland, Oregon. It's actually where I'm at right now. So I come from an agricultural background, an urban background as well. My situation, I got to grow up on a 14-acre school farm with 2 parents as ag teachers right in the middle of Portland, Oregon, essentially. So right next to our cow pasture out here is a subdivision, and then a mile away is one of the biggest malls in Oregon. So, I mean, we are right in the middle of it, and so kind of unique growing up. But in high school, I remember I was 8th grade when my mom got me a book from a guy named Glenn Van Eckeren, and it was like the Speaker's Handbook Volume 2, which sounds really boring, and most of it was, but I gleaned some good things out of it, and I kind of really just enjoyed speaking to people. And so, in fact, my first gig, I was 5 years old, and I was the MC of my local high school talent show. I would tell jokes in between acts, and I'm not sure if they laughed with me or at me. I was only 5, so who knows. But yeah, so I've just been doing it ever since, and really just had the opportunity now to go into it full time, and that's what I'm doing now. So trying to bring home the bacon, doing things like this and speaking. And it's been a lot of fun. So I know I recognize a lot of names on there. I saw Ezekiel jump on. He's from Southern Oregon, so good to see him on there. And a bunch of the people I've seen before. But yeah, we're gonna have some fun. And if you guys are on here, just know that I don't do things alone. So this is gonna be pretty interactive.
Well, this crowd knows that if they don't volunteer, we will volunteer them. So they know they've been with me long enough to know that if they don't jump in, I'll pull them in. Jason, you're doing a lot of leadership training for young people across the nation right now. What is the one thing that you're really passionate about sharing with them, especially during this really strange and weird time that we're all experiencing? With our Generation Ziglar audience, what is the one passionate thing that you want to share with them?
So our mission, so my business mission, but also my personal mission, or my why, if you're a fan of Simon Sinek and start with why and his why, how, what concept, you start with your purpose and your why. And each of us have something like that. We have a why, we have a purpose, we have something that's innate. And a lot of us probably just haven't taken the time to boil it down into a few words. But mine actually came from my agriculture economics professor, Dr. Bailey Norwood. And he kind of talked like this. And he said, economics is about making the lives of other people better. And I don't understand why he talked like that, because he's from Oklahoma. But he did. And I was like, man, that kind of resonated with me. And so everything I do, my goal every single day with every action I take, whether personal or in my business, is to make the lives of other people better. And in doing so, make the world a better place. And so I guess my question to you is, when you're making a decision, or you're choosing who you're hanging out with, or you're deciding what organization to be involved in, or what college to go to, or what to pursue post high school, or what to pursue after your kids leave the house, whatever, are you making the world better? Are you making the lives of other people better? And so that's kind of what I ask people, and then hopefully that answer is yes. But it's got to be definitive, right? It can't be well, possibly. Like, no, it's got to be definitive. And so if we're doing something at Jason Wetzler Leadership, it's making the lives of other people better.
My bad. I hit mute. You and I talked before the call, and one of the things that you've been sharing now is a concept that those who are familiar with Ziglar and familiar with our audience know very well. Something that you have found to be very instrumental to helping young people today.
Yep.
That is the wheel of life. Share with us your take on the wheel of life, on how you do it, because different people have interpreted it different ways and how they apply it. And how do you see it working with this younger audience?
Yeah. So you talk about ways to make people's lives better. And one of the most practical ways that I've seen, and I've actually used this in trainings recently, but I stumbled upon it back in high school. And I didn't even know it was a Ziglar product, but he actually, as we know, right, Zig's he's like the Yoda of leadership, right? Like, a lot of things come from him, a lot of wisdom, a lot of incredible concepts. And this is one of the most practical leadership tools. A lot of times, you get a good quote, or you get a good anecdote, or a good story, and you're like, man, yeah, that can be applied in a lot of different ways. And, it's kind of ambiguous, but this wheel of life is really black and white as far as its uses and how incredible it is. So as I was doing some research, though, there are a lot of people that looked into the wheel of life. There's a lot of people, and I kind of made some notes of who so far, names you might recognize, of organizations, people that have used this or promoted this. So Brian Tracy, Dave Ramsey, Lane Jones, Tom Ziglar, Personal Excellence, The Start of Happiness, Disney, Tony Robbins, Mark Lynch. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people that have said, this is a concept we agree with, we believe in, it works. So all that to say, I don't know anything. Don't take my word. Take their word for it as we go through this. So my plan was to kind of walk you guys through it a little bit. But before I do, I just want to start off with a little story, okay? Let's just imagine, Caden, have you ever gotten a new truck for a birthday? Your parents ever get you a car, or you just buy yourself one?
Yes, sir, kind of. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you got a vehicle. What kind of vehicle is it?
1995 Ford F-150.
You're one of those guys. Okay, so you're 95 F-150. You're on the Facebook page. You guys probably have rallies in the Walmart parking lots. I'm about it. I like it. My friend Darren's the same way. Okay. Now imagine your parents say, Caden, you know what? It's your birthday. We're going to get you a brand new set of tires. And you're like, what's your response to that?
I'll be down for it. Yes, sir. I'll be happy.
So what's a tire shop in? Where are you from, North Carolina? Is that right?
I'm from Tarboro, North Carolina.
Okay. What's a tire shop in your hometown?
Boyd's Tire Shop.
Okay, so you guys go to Boyd's, and you're walking there, and the tire guy meets you out front. He's like, okay, and he's talking to your parents, and all of a sudden you realize something's a little off. You're a little confused because they're looking at all the different tires individually, and they're like, all right, this front right tire, Caden, you're going to get this tire, but we're going to choose each tire individually, and this first one's going to be based on how well you're doing in your academics right now.
Okay.
And you say, well, that's unfortunate because I actually got a C this semester in organic rocket science that I was taking as a 14-year-old that's driving a car. So they're like, that's a shame, Caden, I'm sorry. So they pull out this little, like, 9-inch, Hot Wheels tire, and they slap it on your 1995 F-150. Then they go to the next tire, and they say, okay, all right, academics is fine. Physically, how are you doing in your life? And you flex on them, right? And you say, check these guns out. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Okay. And they're like, yeah, you are. So what's like, I don't know tires very well. What's like a super nice, like, this is what I'm going to have?
To be honest, I really don't know either. Mud tire, I guess.
Yeah, like 47-inch mud tire.
Yeah.
And they're going to throw that bad boy on there. It's beautiful. It's immaculate. It's polished. They go to the back tire. They do the same thing, but they ask about your spiritual walk right now and your purpose. And they're like, how are you doing with that? You're like, well, I go to church every Sunday. I'm about it. I'm in the Word. And so they're like, great. Okay, another great tire. Then they go to the final fourth tire, and they're like, okay, well, how are your relationships right now? How are you doing with friendship and your family? And you're like, well, I guess I haven't talked to grandma in 5 years. So, that's not great. So again, another little Hot Wheels tire. Now you're looking at this truck and you got 2 immaculate tires on one side and 2 little Hot Wheel tires on the other. Caden, do you want to drive that truck?
No, sir.
No one wants to drive that. That is a dangerous vessel right now, okay? That is not good. That, my friends, is essentially the wheel of life, okay? So I've done a little art for you. Boom. You guys see that all right? Okay. We're going to talk about this, and I'm just going to walk you through what this wheel of life is. Now, the whole concept is about balance, okay? Now, don't judge my geometry, okay? I wasn't good at shapes. But essentially, the whole concept is about balance. So I'm going to walk you through. This is actually a tool I use in my personal life every 6 months or so. And the good thing about the wheel of life is it's not something that you do one time. It's not like if you've ever taken Clifton Strengths Finder assessment, you get your results, and those are your results. They're not really going to change, right? The wheel of life is constantly shifting. It's constantly moving, and that's okay. But the goal here is balance. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to do, just to not pick anyone out, I already picked on Caden quite a bit. I'm going to call him some different names, and we're just going to evaluate each area of your life. So it's going to take some vulnerability. You can lie. Feel free to lie, okay? That's okay, because this is just a made-up activity. So let's just start with Sarah Beth. Let's go finances. Okay, Sarah Beth, if you had to rate yourself 0 to 10 on your finances right now, what would you be?
Let's go with like a 5.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and we make a dot. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. Let's go academic. Miss Shelley Armour, academically in your life, how are you doing? Now, Miss Shelley's a teacher, so how are you doing academically, 0 to 10?
About an 8. I've been doing tons of webinars and stuff to improve for next year.
Absolutely. You've been on it. I believe you. That's not even a lie. Sarah Beth might have been. Okay. Purpose and spirituality. Let's go to that one. Caroline, 0 to 10. Purpose and spirituality right now.
I would say maybe 7, 6.
Yeah, you guys are crushing it. So that's a 10, 9, 8. We're going to go 6 just for the sake of variety. Okay. But you're probably at a 7. I believe you. All right. Now it's upside down here, but intellectual. Let's go. Mr. Wesley Jones, in the intellectual category of your life, how are you doing, 0 to 10?
I'd say a 9.
Yeah, I believe you. You look smart. Okay. And finally, we got a few more. Career. Okay. Everyone's turning their cameras off. They're like, I don't want to do it. Mr. Chef Mike Erickson, you got your camera on. Career right now. How are you doing, 0 to 10?
Oh, that's a trick question because we're in a pandemic right now. So,
so 10 out of 10 for everybody. That's how everyone's doing.
I feel like I'm back at 2 or 3 with the distance learning that's going to come up this fall school year. But I'd say probably a 7 or an 8.
So are you a teacher as well, sir?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Oh, you get a 10. No, anyone that's teaching right now, no, they're 10 out of 10 because I do not envy you at all. Okay, who's not gone yet? Caden, let's just do you have physical. Caden, what did you say you were a physical, 0 to 10?
I would say about 7.
Yeah, that's right. How many push-ups can you do in a minute?
4.
You don't have to answer that. A lot. We get it. You're strong. Okay. And then finally, official. Now, this one confuses people. Official just means, if you're on an officer team, if you're part of an organization, if you're, involved civically, or if you're not involved civically, you're not a part of the Lions Club, things like that. So I'll just do this one. So official, I've been trying to stay involved in my community. I'm involved in Young Life here, and so I'm doing okay with that. But I missed some meetings, and we've had some struggles online. So I'm going to say I'm at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now we have this. Now, usually you would do all of these areas yourself, right? This is obviously all of us to protect, us and in the way we're doing our life right now. But usually that would just be an assessment you do for yourself, 0 to 10. How you rate it? Now, this is the quick version, and I'll talk about the long version here in a second. Oh, we missed relationships. Okay. My fiance is gorgeous, and so I'm going to give myself a 10 out of 10 on that one. She's smoking. Okay, so now here's the next step. We just connect the dots. Okay. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that very well. You guys see those lines? Okay. Awesome. Now, again, Caden, I'm going to ask you, would you want to drive this car?
Absolutely not. No, sir.
No, that is a death trap. Okay. That is like my 1989 Plymouth Voyager van that I worked in my grandma Dorothy's garden for when I was in high school. Okay. That is not a safe vehicle, but it could be a lot of fun, but you don't want to drive that, right? So this is something we do, say, okay, this is great. We have this information now. Now, what do we do with it? Now, if this were me and if this were my wheel of life, what I would do is I would say, okay, what are the areas in my life that I'm doing really well in? Relationships, career, those are 10 out of 10. And then academics up there as well. So I'm probably okay as far as the amount of time I'm dedicating to these areas of my life. The other ones, like official, purpose and spirituality, maybe physical, you start looking at and you say, okay, what are some ways I can improve those? Now, some people use this as a goal setting exercise. For me, goal setting is a loaded term that comes with a lot of connotations and comes with a lot of I gotta say goals, and there's so like physical. People think like, I should run a marathon. No, let's change it up. For me, I'm gonna say let's take this from a goal setting exercise to a habit forming exercise. Okay, so instead of choosing 3 areas to focus on, choose one area. So maybe it's just physical. And you say, I'm going to form a habit that moves me in a direction towards a more balanced life in that area. Okay. So James Clear is an author. He wrote the book called Atomic Habits, and it's an incredible book. And I highly recommend it if you're into personal development and want to understand the science of how your actions take place, especially the subconscious ones, like the habits you're doing, right? And the behaviors you have in your life. But essentially, we've got to understand, okay, what's a trigger of my habit? What's the cycle I'm going through? And then what's the reward I'm getting, both good or bad habits? So creating a good habit is as simple as understanding the trigger. Maybe it's waking up. Maybe it's an alarm you set. Maybe it's a friend texting you. And then saying, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. So that's the actual habit. And then the reward is seeing results in our life. Okay. I could go on and on all day about this. I'll say this. We just did a really simplified version. If you're short on time, do it that way, just 0 to 10 in your life. But there are also full-blown assessments. So I have a list I have 10 questions for every category, actually, that I ask myself. And one of the questions that is the same across all the categories is, do I have a mentor in my life in that area? So do I have a mentor in my life in that area? And that's a pretty yes or no question. If the answer is no, that drops me 3 points automatically. You cannot be high performing in an area if you do not have mentorship in that area. Okay. So that's just one thing. So if you want to take like a longer assessment, I'll send you those questions after this. No worries at all. I can give them to James. He can pass them out, whatever. Those are not, just questions I ask myself every 6 months or so to say, hey, how balanced is my life? Let me ask this. What happens when we invest more time in one area? What happens to some of the other areas?
Well, since there's only a certain amount of time in the day, one would assume that the other areas would probably falter or become unbalanced.
Yeah, we only got so much rubber to make our tires with, right? So we cannot expect relationships. We cannot expect everything to be at a 10. And if we are, we're going to be worn out pretty quickly, right? So just know that's why you do this constantly, because as you invest in one area, they shift, things move around, and you begin to kind of have more balance, but things become off balance. So it's a constant game of chess in your life of figuring out, where do I need to invest more time? Where do I need to build better habits? Man, there's years and years and years of research people have done on this stuff. Habit forming, the wheel of life. It is a concept that you can use if you're 3 years old, because wheels are fun, right? Or if you're 33 years old, or if you're 83 years old, it doesn't matter. If you have time and you want to spend it the right way and invest and make the lives of other people better, well, you got to invest in yourself first. Okay, that's kind of my spiel. I know there's usually a big Q&A portion with this, but if there's any questions you guys have, I'm gonna do this. I'm a storyteller. I like stories, so I want to challenge myself. I'm trying to do kind of put a twist on all the Zoom calls I've been on. I've been on like 7,500 in the past 2 weeks, it feels like, right? So I'm going to try this. Any question that gets asked, I want you to challenge me to answer it with a story. So there will be a story that comes with, not a long one, but a story that comes with any question that gets asked. I'm going to try my best. Hold me accountable. All right, back to you, James.
All right, Generation Ziglar, community. Who has a question for Jason? Caden, you got a question?
Sorry, I had to get on mute. So, Mr. Wetzler, so whenever you heard that the pandemic has struck and all of your talks, your leadership events you're going to do were canceled, how did you react and what did you do to alter and make yourself still shine throughout this pandemic?
So I'm thinking back to some of the advice I got from my grandma. I remember I ran for National FFA office the first time, and I did not get elected. And I remember being very sad. And I called my grandma, and as you know, a good, loving grandmother would do, she had no sympathy for me. Right? She just did not care at all. She said, "That's fine, Jason. You can cry and you can be bitter and you can moan, but you have about a day of that before you better get back in the saddle and keep going." So really that's kind of been my philosophy. I mean, we can't control a lot of the things in life that happen to us. We've heard that before. And so, yeah, it's a big news, but here's the deal. Perspective is everything. And you look at the things that are happening in our world. For me to complain and be like, "Oh no, I can't go speak on stages anymore. Now I have to do it on Zoom on my $1,200 laptop with my internet and the roof over my head. And oh, it's so sad." Like that. It's just, I think perspective is everything, right? Like we cannot sit and complain about the fact that we had an event taken from us, or that we had a milestone in our life taken from us. Instead, I think the people that are going to be making an impact are the ones that are looking towards the next milestone or helping others reach their milestone, right? So I just think it provided a lot of opportunities for people to step up and serve others, and those that didn't were left behind. So yeah, so that was kind of my approach to it.
Who else has a question? Somebody want to jump in with a question? Caroline.
So my question is, what is your advice for us young people, well, everybody, on how to stay productive during this pandemic?
Oh. Caden, you said you had not slept in like 2 weeks. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very little sleep.
Maybe you should be answering this question. I'll say this. Being productive, I think, is a double-edged sword. People think, "Oh, I have all this time. I've got to do all these things." I'm not saying to sleep till noon. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying to sorry, someone just came in the public school. And I'm not saying to slack off or to work 18-hour days. I think there's got to be a balance like anything else, right? I think you use the wheel of life for this and say, "Hey, what am I investing in my time right now?" The cool thing is now we have a lot more time to invest in some areas maybe we've neglected. And so as far as being productive, I'd say, well, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like getting work done, Caroline? Do you mean like working for school, like academics? I'd say, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little easier. I think online learning takes a little bit less of our time. And so if you can get your academics done quicker, say, okay, what time do I have left? And should I be investing that in my intellect, my physical health, my mental health, my relational health, and kind of choose an area and start, hey, what habit can I form here now? That's actually what I've been able to do physically, without really any planes to fly on and places to go. I've been able to actually get a consistent routine with my health, and it's been absolutely incredible. I feel better than I have in 10 years. So.
Did you get a CrossFit this morning?
No, I'm not a morning. Again, I'm not saying you should sleep until noon, but you don't got to wake up at 6, okay? All these people, I'm sorry. There's a lot of good people that wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go tackle the world. I have never been, and I will never be one of those people. And if you don't want to wake up at 5 a.m., don't do it. Unless your parents tell you to and you live in their house and do what they say.
Who else got a question today? You can just unmute yourself. You don't necessarily have to raise it. We'll just unmute yourself.
Jason, obviously you're a retired national officer and you had said you didn't make it the first time, but what I'm curious about, since you were an FFA kid growing up, literally with your parents,
yeah,
at what point, like what triggered you to say, you know what, I'm going to run for national office. I want to be at the top of the leadership chain for FFA.
You know what's funny is when I first saw him, I was 10 years old at National FFA convention in Louisville, Kentucky. I saw Dane White, and he's heard this story a million times. He's a friend of mine now. He's the actually executive secretary of California FFA now, and he was an ag teacher for a long time. But he was national president, and I saw his retiring address, and he told a story. I was 10. He told a story of how him and his brother used to fight over shotgun, and I was like, my brother and I also fight over shotgun. And like literally everything else. My older brother and I are 13 months and 4 days apart. And I could always beat him up, but he was, like a little faster than me. So it's just, anyways, that's a whole nother rabbit trail. But I saw that. I did not know who Dane was. I did not know why he was on a stage. I did not even know that we were at a session. I knew what the FFA was because Mom was an ag teacher, but I just said, I want to do that. And so for me, it was less about, a title or less about an office, and less, I just know that he had an influence on my life. Just right there, telling stories, being on a stage. I mean, he was 300 yards away, or what it felt like, right? Like, I had never met this person, but I knew that he had changed my life with words that he had said, and I thought, man, words are powerful. And so actually, from that point, my mom and I talked about pretty often of just what that meant and what being in that position was like. And she never mentioned it was like a national officer. I didn't find out really what that was till like 7th or 8th grade. She just mentioned like, hey, how are you using your words? Are you practicing your vocabulary so you can reach more people? Are you, writing? Are you speaking? Are you doing these other things? If that's how you want to influence people, then let's start now. So it really was a process that began in my life, and it just kind of happened to be that national office became the platform which I used that influence on for about a year.
Anyone else have a question that they want to ask this morning?
So recently I'm going to be a regional officer now, and yeah. So I know this school is going to be very difficult, very different, and I know you mentioned what advice for like academics in school would be like, but for a proactive individual as I am in my chapter and region, what advice would you give me to help others like during this time, like how to cope with both virtual and in person?
Yeah. Let me ask this. So I want to make sure I have my story lined up. That's a good question. Leah, good to see you again, by the way. Are you
It's
from,
good to see you too.
where are you from again?
Michigan.
That's right. Well, congrats on regional office. That's a big
Thank
deal.
you.
And it is no less a big deal, even though we're in the middle of the pandemic. That's still huge. In fact, I think officers and people in positions of leadership are going to be tested more this year than anything in the past. And poor leadership actually is easy to see right now. So it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of energy to be a good leader throughout this time. So what is the mission? I don't want to test you, and if you don't know word for word, that's fine. But like, what is the mission of the FFA?
Well, to help others before my own. Like in my chapter, we've done a lot to help others in our towns, because my school makes up 3 towns. So we help out those individual towns and helping people who can't help themselves. Yeah. And no matter how small or how large on a scale, I feel like that's what it means to me. But I feel like everyone else is different, have their own meaning of it as well. Yeah. But for me, that's how I view.
Yeah, so service is written throughout our motto, right? Living to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, right? Or the mission, right? Premier leadership, personal growth, and career success. So I think a lot of times, if we stay mission-centered, if we stay mission-focused, we can realize that it's not necessarily about so at this point, I told you guys my purpose, my why is to make the lives of the people better. Well, the best part about knowing your why, or about knowing the mission of the organization you serve or your personal mission, is that when everything else gets stripped away, when the what in your life, like graduation ceremonies, like leadership conferences, like assemblies, like sports, those get taken away. The who in your life, your friends, you can't hang out with them anymore. You can't travel to go see your family, right? Your friendships are kind of changed in a way you can't see each other for a little while. So the what and the who has changed. The when, okay, now we're on someone else's schedule. We're being told in some cities, literally when we have to go home, okay, things are starting to slip out of our control. The one thing that remains in your control is your why, is your purpose. So you figure out ways to accomplish your purpose outside of the ways you were doing them before, okay? So whether that, I mean, it's just going to take a lot of creativity and ingenuity. I think about some of the things that we, some of the things I think the national officers this year are doing, right? So my friend Courtney is a national officer. She's from Oregon. And, man, I feel for her. This year was supposed to be, traveling 120,000 miles, and she's in Baker City, Oregon at home. But, man, what a display of leadership from that team to come together and every week put something virtual out. Every week do another leadership. I mean, that is – people don't understand how much work that is. That's not even a schedule I'm doing, and I'm doing this for a living, right? Like, they are investing in ways to fulfill the mission of the FFA because the what and the who and the when of their life has all changed. But their why, their purpose is still being fulfilled. So that's incredible. So you look at people like that, and I think you see an example of how to do that. So as your regional officer this year, just think what's the what going to look like, even though it's different. Who's the who going to be? When is this going to take place? Maybe those are big question marks right now, but if you stick to the mission, they'll become clear.
Thank you.
Jason, how can they start to find what their personal why is? I mean, we've got late teens to early 20s on this call for the most part. How do these young people and how do the teachers that are on here and the adults that are working with the youth, how do they help youth find their why that as they're starting out? Where can they go? Because I think back to when I was 16, 17, a large part of my why was dictated to me by, others, my parents or my teachers. But we're at a culture now where we really are striving to help people find their why so that they can stay focused in life. What advice would you give to these young people on how to find their why?
Oh, yeah, those are my favorite conversations. Whenever I coach people on interviewing, this is the first question. The first thing we tackle is understanding your why, because it bleeds into every other area of your life. So here's a fun activity. Caroline, I'm going to use you as an example. So Caroline, tell me the name of your best friend. Open me to her.
I'd say my best friend would be Isabella.
Okay, Isabella. Now, I don't know if there's like another friend in your life you had to choose between, but I hope their feelings aren't hurt. So Isabella is your best friend, okay? Here's one thing you can do. Simon Sinek said this on a podcast, and I think it's really interesting. I've done it, and it's funny. It's funny, and it's also impactful. You call Isabella out of nowhere, or you go see her, and you say, Isabella, why are you my best friend? And she'll be like, I don't know, stop, like what? And you're like, no, Isabella, why are you my best friend? And you keep asking, and she'll be like, you're fun. Like, can we go now? Or I don't know what she'll say. I don't know how she is. She may be way nicer than that. She may just give you an answer, but you just keep asking and keep asking and keep asking, and don't say anything else. Like, don't say a single other thing. Just, why are you my best friend? No, really, why are you my best friend? No, truly, why are you my best friend? And keep asking until eventually they'll just be exasperated, which is the funny part. And they'll just say at the core of who you are, why they are in a relationship, a friendship with you. Okay. And that will be a hint to your why. Okay. So right now what we're doing, I'm going to give you some ways to kind of collect data. So that's one way. Another way is ask your parents and say, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever in your life that kind of watched you grow up, was there a time in my life when I was little that you just were really proud of me, or you saw me do something that was just kind of spectacular and you were just kind of surprised? I mean, maybe when you were 5 or 6, or maybe, you went to school and you realized another kid didn't have a lunch, and so you asked your mom to pack another lunch, or you just did something that was good-natured without being prompted at all. So ask them for those stories. So that's another way to collect data. And then I would just start to comb your own experiences too, of saying, if you've kept a journal, go back through those, or go back through your life and say, when have I really felt in the moment? When have I really felt that kind of flow, that natural feeling of like, this is where I'm supposed to be, and what was I doing? Some characteristics about a why. There are, we're born with them, right? So they're innate, they're natural. They're things that we do just without even thinking about it, right? They're also generally altruistic. So they're about helping other people, right? So they're going to be something you've done your entire life, and they're going to be something that's probably focused on serving others. So you start to ask these people that care about you, your best friend, your parents, about moments in your life you've done certain things. Then you kind of find the similarities and commonalities, and you tie those together. For me, it took hearing a lecture from my professor to get the right words, but for some people, like there's a Kentucky FFA state officer candidate, Miss Lacey May Denny, she's all about creating positive spaces for people. So like during the pandemic, she planted a garden. And she didn't even realize kind of what she was doing, but that was right in line with her purpose and why, and she didn't even have words for it yet, right? We'd established those words later, but she realized there was moments in her life that she just is constantly wanting to create a positive space for people. So that's her why. So yeah, I would just go through some of those activities, and if those aren't enough for you, read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek, listen to some of his stuff, watch his TED Talk. Yeah, invest in that process for sure. It's worth it.
Jason, you do a lot of coaching of folks, and that's, like mentorship. And we talk a lot about finding mentors. A question that one of our viewers has is, what does mentorship look like once we find the people to mentor us?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes you can be intentional about getting a mentor and in a mentoring relationship. There's an organization called Edge Mentoring, and it's really great. It's for how it works is, 18 to 30-year-olds sign up for it. You apply for it, and then they pair you in groups with groups of 5 mentees or 4 mentees with a mentor somewhere across the country that's 30 years or older. That's a successful business person or something like that. Actually, Bo Williamson is my Edge mentor. He's a past national officer, and we got randomly paired together, but it's been a great relationship. And him and I actually have a call, I think it's next week, talking about my life master plan, something we go through. And so it can look intentional like that, or sometimes you just stumble upon it. But I think something to know about mentors is they are all about big picture development, right? So they're less about, hey, a coach is going to teach you how to dribble a basketball. A mentor is going to teach you how to be a good person, right? So find someone that is investing in you as a person, cares about your overall success. And how you know they're a mentor is that when you mess up and they know about it, they're helping you get better, right? There's no disciplinary action taken. There's simply growth. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of a mentorship. And one thing my best friend Garrett always said, and I've stuck by, is in life you should always have a 1-up, a 1-over, and a 1-down. Someone you look up to, someone you're walking with and holding accountable, and someone you're mentoring yourself. A 1-up, a 1-over, and a 1-down.
You guys might want to write that one down. Repeat that one again, and somebody type it in the chat for us. Caden, you got it in the chat?
1-up, 1-over, 1-down. Someone you're looking up to, someone you're walking with and accountable. Holding accountable, and then someone you are mentoring.
All right, so folks, make sure you do it. I want to see some hashtagging on that this week and some tweets as we go by. Someone sending it out or making a nice cute poster and sticking it up on Instagram or something for us on the 1-up, 1-over, and 1-down. Who else has a question today as we go forward? Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So how would you suggest that we continue to build relationships during this time? Because it's, like you said, really hard to go meet new people because people run away from you as soon as you walk up to them now.
Wait, they only do that now? They've been doing that to me for years. Is that – sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Now it's a thing for everyone, so it's okay. But how would you suggest just building a community of maybe people that you haven't met yet, or just reaching out to new people and building your community, even though it's hard to go out and meet people in person now?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. And you know what? Right now, I think that's such a bigger question than even you realize maybe when you're asking it, because we need relationship more than ever right now. I mean, our world is hurting for relationship, right? I mean, we all know what's going on in the world, and it's not pretty. And it's because we failed to build relationships across boundaries that have been built up. And so I'd say the biggest thing you can do, and actually if you hear me speak live, I talk a lot about questions and the power of questions. Man, there is nothing more powerful than a good question. And you ask someone and you just wait for the answer. So I'd say figure out what questions you need answered. Say hey, how can I help you is a good question. What drives you is a good question. And ask these to people that wouldn't expect it, right? That's kind of a fun thing to do. In my Young Life, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Young Life, but I'm a Young Life leader. Sometimes or my wrestling team I help coach, I'll ask these young people, I'll just say, hey, we'll be at wrestling practice and be like, hey, what do you care about? And I'll be like, what? Like the wrestling? Like I just all wrestling? Like, no, come on, really? Like what do you care about? What do you like to do for fun? Just asking people questions that they're not expecting can open up boundaries can dissolve boundaries that were previously there as far as for building relationships. You'd be very surprised. Just invest in people that way. It doesn't take any money. It doesn't take hardly any time. Just asking good questions. And I'd say there's probably a lot of good research done online about how to build relationships, but I think first step is just asking questions and being open to the answers and not having a rebuttal waiting, but just accepting whatever their answer is because that's who they are.
You mentioned earlier about the setback you had when you ran for office the first time on a national level and did not get that. And the encouragement, the kick in the pants that grandmother gave you to go forward and stuff. A lot of our young leaders that'll watch this call, that are with us online and are watching on Facebook, they're going to encounter those kind of setbacks as well. If they come to you and said, I don't know, help me get over this. How do I go forward on this? How do I recover from this? What's going to be your best advice to them?
I'll tell y'all what, so the full story is what makes this great. So that year I did not get elected national office, but someone in particular did. Her name was Jonelle Futrell. She's from Kentucky. She got elected at national officer team, which means she beat me, which is fine because last New Year's Eve we got engaged. So I'm just saying there's a reason, okay, that stuff happens. If we would have gotten elected or I got elected and she not, or we're on the same team, we would not be engaged right now. And I'd be a lot worse place in my life without her. So I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what your setback is, but I can tell you that Michael Jr., one of my favorite comedians, good speaker, he says your setback is probably a set up. Okay, so it's probably setting you up for something better in the future. Your setback's going to be your set up. And he's a comedian, so that's funny because it's, you set up and then joke. Okay, anyways. And so, Jonelle and I are engaged now, and that would not have happened, guaranteed, had we been on the same national officer team or had I gotten elected and her not, mainly because she doesn't like to lose to me. And
That's a positive. That is a positive. And it's a good point that you make. You don't know what you perceive as a disappointment is going to be that opportunity. I ran for national office as well when I was coming out of state office. I didn't get it, and it was just totally devastating for me for the next 45 days, from the beginning of November all the way into December. And then in January, trying to wander around North Carolina State University, going to a campus ministry meeting. I see this little girl sitting in the room there that I was like, she's kind of cute. And, we've been married for 28 years. So I would have never met my wife if I had not met that. And she is watching this. And so I'm pretty sure that we're going to get likes on Facebook right now.
Yeah.
Because of that. Oh, yep, there we got that. We got likes coming on Facebook. I can see it happening now. I should tell more stories like that. We'll get more likes there. So anyone else have a question before we close out? My question is, how can they?
I'd like to also point out that if you got national office, we would not have the awesome and amazing Sarah Beth that we have in North Carolina FFA. Just putting that out there also.
Sarah Beth is thankful that you did not get elected.
There's a good point. That's a good point. That's fair situation. There's a song by Darius Rucker that's entitled "This," which is a song about does he take in the course of the song, it's talking about little choices that he makes and how it sets him up for greater things in life, when he turns left or turns right, when he got fired for a job that he really wanted, when a girl told him no that he thought he was really liked, and how now he has such a wonderful life. And those little setbacks that he thought were so devastating early really were the setup, as Michael Jr. has said it. And Michael Jr. is a great friend of Ziglar. The Ziglar company has talked quite a bit to him and had him on as well. How can this group, both online on our Zoom call and watch it on Facebook, how can they get in touch with you? How can they follow you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, on Facebook it's just Jason Wetzler Leadership, and then on Instagram it's just Jason Wetzler. So I do want to give a shout out really quick. So I have two people working with me right now, Miss Kenny Boras and Miss McKenna Wilson. Kenny is my media design wizard, and McKenna is my leadership development ninja. They're kind of going to be with me for the next 12 weeks, and they've been awesome. So if you see stuff coming from Facebook or Instagram, and it's good and you like it, it's because of them. If you see stuff that's just appalling, it's me probably, or my face. So anyways, but Instagram at Jason Wetzler, Facebook Jason Wetzler Leadership. Yeah, y'all feel free to reach out to me. My contact information's all over online, which is not great, but it's there now, so it's gonna be there forever. So yeah, feel free to get in touch with me, text me. I'm here for you. If I can help you in any way, just let me know.
All right, my friends, and if you want to see the entirety of this call, by next Monday, it'll be at our YouTube channel. If you want to find our YouTube channel, you can go to the URL GenerationZvideos.com. GenerationZvideos.com, and it'll take you straight to our YouTube channel, which you can see all of the calls that we had recorded of the 14 calls that we did. There's 14 of them recorded. They're all online there, plus a number of our short clips as well. So any closing statements or questions from anyone? I thought I saw some hands or something here. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll through. Anything else here? All right, I'm putting everybody on gallery view so that you all can be on gallery in there. Let's all wave to the community. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jason, for joining us. And thank you, Generation Ziglar community, for going forward on everything you do. So remember, it's GenerationZvideos.com. GenerationZvideos.com to find the stuff. So thanks, folks, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye, y'all. See you guys. Thanks for joining.